Welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 131, Into the Eye.
Yes.
Double meaning there.
Yeah.
Eye of the Storm and the
Eyes of Nine.
Yeah. And the episode started with a fight.
Yep.
And Matt says, let me bring out the battle map. And Ashley's like, what? And Travis is like, you think I was lying?
Yep.
So obviously there was talk going on in their text thread.
Yeah.
About, you're going to have to fight for the sword. So that was fun.
Yeah, as more and more in the beginning, like right away, we know what's happening, and there's the fight. Especially with, like, in the first round, maybe 2 rounds of combat, we've got Sam doing the Unleash the big attack.
Yeah.
And Loris Beast dying and doing the explosion. And I'm like, this one's for Dan. This is going to give him his fix on the Zella Barbarian.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was very satisfying having them do the Endless Rage. Yeah. A huge barbarian flex this episode. And yes, it was exceedingly satisfying. My only disappointment was that they didn't go outside to find her dead, holding the Holy Avenger.
Yeah, so they could actually raise dead without material components.
Yeah. And Matt not bothering to roll for this resurrection.
Yeah.
Just so that the other players would know that rezzing Yasha doesn't cost them anything. Because right now, none of them know that.
Yeah.
So that's, but it was still good.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah, I went from like, yep, this one's for Dan, to at the end, when she's flying up and she's dead, and I'm like, she's like, yeah, I keep raging so that I don't die. I'm like, use healing hands. You talked about it. And when I discussed that before the episode.
Yeah, I was like, I think once you're dead, you're dead.
Right, but we looked at the book, and it says if you're dead from death saves, when you exit the rage, you die, unless you don't have 0 hit points. So you can still heal in that time and then be saved.
Yeah.
So if she had used healing hands, she wouldn't have had to expend all the rages. Not that she didn't get them back right away, because it was right before a long rest. But still, I was like, you just mentioned it 2 minutes ago, Ashley. Heal yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's what Matt was trying to
I think
get her
he was
to do.
Definitely, when he was like, well, what are your abilities? What can you do?
Yeah.
I think he was definitely trying to do that.
Yeah. Because I think he was trying to get her to heal herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then she could have flown essentially at her leisure.
Yeah.
Up there. But her looking for lightning was also nice.
Yeah.
And so when she rolled well enough, I think Matt decided this scene needs a button. She needs to get to this place.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to her.
Yeah.
She's not taking my hints. She's not using the abilities I know she has.
Yeah.
She's done this. That's the door.
Yeah. And I mean, I probably would have given it to her too with that, but technically you're not, if you fly into lightning, you're not attacking or being attacked.
Arguably, you take damage.
Yes, but you can take damage and not be attacked.
Yeah, but the rage stipulates take damage, attack, or...
Oh, okay. I thought it was just attack, because that's what Matt kept saying. You need to attack or be attacked.
Yeah.
I forgot about the take damage part.
Yeah, because you can be in an AoE and take damage and sustain your rage. And yes, Rose. Sam, yeah, he was kind of a goofball about it. But
Sam was Sam.
I loved him for that because I make such a big point on our show that combat is RP.
Yeah.
And he took it to a stereotypical actor joke place.
Yeah.
About what's my motivation. But for me, that was a small little... a bit from Sam I don't normally get, which was nice.
Yeah.
One weird thing about the combat was the elementals were not immune to the prone condition.
Yeah.
Most elementals that fly are immune to the prone condition. I don't know if that was an oversight.
One of two things. Either Matt just absentmindedly forgot to write it down, just like he gave Taliesin an outdated version of his character, his beast. Or two, Sam didn't bother to read it because he was the one flying. I mean, any of them didn't bother to read it, and they just went with it, and Matt let it slide for, hey, okay.
Yeah. Or that was a purposeful omission so that their abilities, these things, are part of the problem solving, the puzzle solving of the encounter. You make the bad guys susceptible to their splash abilities.
Yeah.
So that she could in theory have sort of kited them around.
Yeah.
Or got in a position to better sort of bring them all in and then just bang, bang, bang and kill them. Because they only had 35 or 38 hit points.
Yeah, something like that.
And I figured they were probably designed as somewhere between CR3 and CR5. Which would make 6 of them a real threat.
Yeah.
To a 14th level character. And just high enough that it's possible for Yasha to kill them in one hit.
Yeah.
So even though the fight went 4 rounds, I think.
Yes.
It was entirely possible it would have been over in 3. And possibly less, depending on movement and initiative. Like if she had got initiative and moved in on one of them faster.
Mm-hmm.
But as it was, she kind of benefited from them all sort of clumping together on her.
Yeah, because some of them took most, if not all, damage from the splash.
Yeah, Travis's lightning elemental.
Yeah.
All the damage was splash damage. That he took.
I think Taliesin as well. She may have done one hit, but I think most of it, if not all, was splash on Taliesin as well.
Yeah. Also, I have to, because I shout out Matt when his puns and jokes are not appreciated at the table. Marisha suffers the same fate. I thought her Barry is short for low barometric pressure.
Yeah.
Was a good line.
I chuckled.
And just didn't get the respect it deserved. So, yeah.
Well, when you're dealing with Tempest, Cloudburst, and Shock Hudson.
Yeah. But yeah, also, I think they need to come up with a measuring system so that they can look at the monitor and sort of do this kind of thing. and no sort of, that's 10 feet, 15, 30, 40 feet. Because I think Liam was a little salty about, I'll move to there, and I think that's about 30 feet. In the moment, it is also realistic that you don't judge distance great.
Yeah.
All the time. So not confirming for your players the exact range makes it a little more real.
Yeah.
And also, that was the one bone he threw Yasha because she'd lost on initiative so badly.
Yeah.
So intentionally make one of them miss is essentially all that was.
Yeah.
But that just, all it would have meant was she was dead a turn earlier, but
yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it, in the grand scheme, it didn't matter. But it's just, they needed to come up with a wayfinder means of measuring.
Yeah.
That's the radius for fireball, and it's a range of, that. Yeah. Jester does some rewind action. Well, I had some things I wanted to do. And she was getting very self-conscious about taking up too much time.
Yeah.
Which I thought was strange, since we just had, I think it was between 40 and 48 minutes.
Yeah, but they all got to participate in it.
Yeah, but it was essentially Yasha taking up time. Yeah, they were all involved because it's more fun for us, the audience, and for the players,
right,
to be involved.
Well, one, they were all involved. Two, I would argue that Yasha being able to attune to the Holy Avenger was a bit more important to the overall story than scrying on Vandrin.
Well, yes and no. Narratively, Vandrin stuff was more important. The Holy Avenger is just a mechanic thing. That's Matt could have had that happen one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even before when they were at the table, Matt was moving the minis, but they're only 3 feet away from the minis instead of 40.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rose. Yeah, I don't understand why, in that moment, she was. I don't want to take up time, and kudos to Travis. Once again, Travis is one of the better players at the table. Couple episodes ago, it was him being quiet and not disturbing anybody. And in this episode, it was, no, take your time.
Do your thing.
Yeah. I see you want to do something, do it.
Yeah.
So, I really appreciated that, too.
Yeah, he's definitely good about giving the spotlight.
Yeah. Do you think I was right about Winsforth and Yusun? in the sense that the Cerberus Assembly and Trent, I said they weren't going to hold them, they weren't going to torture them, they weren't going to abuse them.
Yeah, I think you were. I think they probably rattled him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, yes, it is still possible that they were there a lot longer and Trent modified Winsforth's memory.
That's possible. Most likely, I think he probably had Astrid and or Aelwulf shake down Wentworth for information while he, again, got the sigils for the teleportation circle, got at least schematics and idea for the amplification room, browsed through the notes to see if there was anything worth, noting.
But yeah,
that's my big thing. He can get into use his tower now. If he doesn't have those glyphs for that teleportation circle, then there's something wrong. Given who Trent is, that's the one thing he did. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Because now, even if he never uses it, I have this backdoor in if Yusa ever tries something.
Yeah.
He never even has to know that I did it.
Yeah. Which is why I say I have to, even though I'm sort of like, yeah, I was proven sort of right, I do have to acknowledge the possibility of the modified memory, especially because high-level enchantment wizards get that boost.
Yeah.
But it certainly isn't the they're in deep, deep trouble. That.
Yeah.
In the morning, Jester confesses what she did.
Yep.
When they're all in the hot tub or the hot spring, except Veth, who continues. No, even though Yasha's like, "Aren't you gonna put your feet in?" No, not gonna do that. I also appreciate, on some level, I appreciate Taliesin rolling an insight check.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it's a little metagamey. Because the player knows there's information available. So he's trying to make it so that his character knows. And he did it without asking the DM or the other player.
Yeah.
That's sort of where I'm sticky on it. I appreciate it in the sense that he is trying to figure out what Caduceus knows.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of thing that when a player picks up the dice and rolls and then tells you they're doing something and they just rolled this.
Yeah.
Wait until I ask for the roll. So it falls very close to that sort of behavior. Which Matt doesn't usually call anyone out on, but he has in the past.
Yeah.
He has said, well, wait until I ask for the roll. Because gamers, we play with dice. And yeah, you rolled that. I saw you roll it. But if it had been Bupkis, would you have asked to do your thing, picked up the die, and re-rolled it?
Yeah.
And that's why it's touchy about people doing that.
Yeah.
So, because much like Marisha, it was a 20, but I picked it up. Can I keep it? You were picking it up to re-roll it.
Yep, going with the intent of reroll.
Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. You rolled it, even though I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
I'm unsure why Ashley didn't come clean about being attuned. Like what?
See, I don't know. I see it as kind of like so what happened there was kind of a personal thing between her and her God. I don't think she's necessarily hiding it, but it's like I don't really want to go into detail about this personal spiritual experience.
Except they were all witness to one when the lightning being attacked on the ship.
Okay.
And she sort of followed Caduceus' advice to make contact.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, on some level, like, Jester and Caduceus both understand this God thing much more than she does. So why wouldn't she talk to them about it? Especially Caduceus, who's all about dreams being important.
Yeah.
And was the first one to sort of put into her head and made her make the leap, literally, to catch Bo.
Yeah.
After her dream. That's why I'm a little like, why did she do that? But Yasha is also one of the most private of the 9.
Mm-hmm.
So it also makes sense it makes some sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do DM. And like I say, I don't like it when a player just rolls and then says, I'm doing this. For the very reason that if that had been a shitty roll, you would have picked it back up and then rolled.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wait till I ask is my general rule. But yeah. They all begin talking about what to do in the event of their deaths.
Yep.
And Veth wrote a letter that she gives to Caduceus' mother.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't come back or we don't come back, please send this
to my son.
Yeah. Jester gets both serious and joke. About her death and what she wants each of them to do. And we talked about how we're fairly certain that if it comes down to it, Caleb's going to sacrifice himself to protect, specifically Jester and Beth.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's like, if I die, he's like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, here's this scenario Here is the plan that Liam has.
Okay.
Jester drops. For whatever reason, she dies. He goes over to her, uses his stone, and casts teleport on whoever's still alive, and remains there.
Yep.
Or cast teleport on her and Vat. And everyone else stays to finish this.
Yeah. I can see him doing that. Do we want to jump into that kind of prediction right now? Since you brought it up, I know your notes have your...
Yeah. I don't know, because we can also talk about it after we go through more of the episode.
Okay.
Because really, when they were in the hot spring,
we have a few differences, but
when they were in the hot spring, talking about, and this is another thing I think that was happening on a text thread. Taliesin saying maybe we should recruit them. And because Travis laughed, he's like, I'm just going to ask, are we entertaining the notion of working with them?
just
stupid. And he's like, I know you are, and Taliesin nods in agreement. And they start talking about, we'll go to Essek, we'll float this trial balloon. And there's a discussion from Bo where she said some very nice things to Caleb.
Yep.
Like, I would rather have you at 100% than to have you diminished and him.
Yeah.
And while they were doing that, I'm like, Essek is not going to be down for that.
Cool.
Because he is terrified this guy and his Volstrukers are going to kill him. And now you're going to say, by the way, we want you to come with us and them into a dangerous situation where he will have access to your person to kill you at any moment. Or to ensure that if you get knocked out, you die, but you will never wake up again. You okay with that? Like, in what world did they think they would be able to make that case?
Yeah. Well, there's one way, but we'll get into that later.
Telling
him
him
with part of what you have.
Telling him
for
Essek, this is your chance to kill him if you...
No.
Oh. Yeah, it's off there. It was. And I don't... Like, even, like... It would probably have been possible to convince Essek to work with Astrid and Aelwulf. Maybe. If Caleb was willing to
if he doesn't
vouch.
know who they are.
Yeah. Look, there's a couple of my classmates. They're down for overthrowing Trent. Would you mind working with them? That they might have been able to sell him on. But straight up Trent Igathon.
Or, hey, Trent's right and left hand.
Yeah. But after that discussion and messaging Essek and getting the foreshadowing of he's not happy about that message.
Yeah. Let's go.
They teleport and it becomes... They survive. The mishap is they're off target.
Yeah.
Which we had predicted was probably going to be the result. I am a little sad that they didn't end up 12 miles in the sky. But we can't have everything we want, so... we get 40 minutes? Almost an hour of them making their way back to the outpost, and them playing the eagle owl flying game.
Yeah. Although I will hand it to him, good use of find the path and keen mind to triangulate.
That was sweet. So good. Yeah, that was really good. And like, I don't know if Taliesin really was waiting till Travis found the map just to troll him, or if he was really just struggling with how exactly to say what he wanted to do.
I think he had a little bit of trouble, but just from the look on his face, I think he figured it out and decided to wait till he pulled, I think like the first half of it was him actually, because there's like this look of almost realization on his face, and then he keeps stammering, and then it's like, oh no, and he kind of has a grin when he says it. So I think it was a little of both.
And yeah, Nick, that's the other bad part of that plan is Trent is not one to put his life on the line. So the only reason Trent would come up there is so that he can kill Essek and get Caleb. This Lucian thing, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Or if he does, it's because Vestaragna did, because Vestaragna was pursuing it as a means to power.
Yeah.
So why don't I do this? Oh, and by the way, Trent is an old man now who may be looking for ways to extend his life. And one of those ways would be to become one of us.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just bad all around. And thank Ashley for asking that very pointed question. What's to stop him from turning bad on us and trying to get to the city? So, yeah. Very minor encounters, mostly weather.
Yeah.
And them doing some resource management. And this is an area where me and Matt are different. Because Matt didn't do it the first time they were doing this. We'll turn into eagles and fly in various combinations.
Yeah.
But I would have gone back and said, what does your character weigh? How much are they carrying? What, you. Yep. Okay. So that any combination that they come up with, I can go, okay, you're encumbered. You can't actually fly with that. Or your speed is reduced.
Yep.
I'm also a little... Annoyed is too strong of a word, but I dislike that Matt is giving them distance in days, because find the path doesn't tell you how long it's going to take you to get there.
Yeah.
It tells you how far away it is. And I don't know if he's doing that so he has some wiggle room or what. I don't know. It just kind of irks me because your players can't make an informed choice about things, how fast to travel, if they're going to try to travel stealthily, which lowers how fast you can go.
Yeah.
They're not with any rangers, so there's terrain restrictions, which them flying does get around a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I think if you play the encumbrance game, the weight game, that forces choices where who's getting transformed and who's not. And so that determines what resources you have on the move, like Caduceus casting guidance and such. Caduceus is one of the heavier people just because he's a furball.
Yeah.
If you're trying to save weight and get everyone flying, Caduceus becomes a flyer.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind.
Yeah.
And that means guidance is out. Because guidance is concentration.
Right.
So it's, I don't know. It's one of those things where I consider it an important character choice kind of situation because you're making a value judgment about who and what you're carrying.
Right.
Which I think is revealing.
Yeah.
So I'm saddened when it doesn't happen.
Gotcha.
Tofnir, that's a good point. He did go to Nicodranus, but that just means that if they make themselves the bait and say, "Will you come help us?" he might come to get them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they make it to the outpost.
Yep.
Without much difficulty, and Matt did sort of do a mea culpa about snowfall in the dome.
Yeah.
And how it would sort of igloo and not collapse on them.
Yeah.
Which that was like, okay, fair enough, but so they get there and as expected, Essek is not down.
Yeah.
And straight up says it's me or him.
And they make the right choice.
Yes. Yes. Which it was very in keeping with Essek's character, but also made things easier for Matt.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do as a DM is to have two archmages helping your party.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if Radagast had joined the Fellowship with Gandalf? Problem solved.
Yep.
Yeah, story builder, yeah. Definitely trying to get them to make a better choice. Yeah. It's like, if you do this, it's going to make me have to kill you. They discuss plans. And they settled on an ambush, which is what we thought they would do.
Yep.
So it is good that they have a general plan for when they get to the place.
Yeah.
Because once you are at the place, now you can get a lay of the land and know where to set your ambush. And Liam made a comment that was very smart, and I think is going to inform how next episode is going to go. And that was, we shouldn't explore deeply into the ruin, but we have to go a little ways. because he doesn't want to spring a trap on them at the door. He wants them in. But it made me wonder, the Tomb Takers know about this entrance. Have they already cleared it?
Yeah, maybe.
And if they've already cleared it, then the Mighty Nine could be going into traps that they have set.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where my mind is at this moment. Is the Tomb Takers a long time ago, when they found this place, secured it for later use.
Yeah.
And so the Mighty Nine are going to have to deal with that. So I'm expecting some glyphs of warding.
Yeah.
From set by Kree, probably. And a cheaper option than Symbol, which is what Laura stumbled upon.
Yeah.
And this is sort of both the strength and the weakness of playing a cleric. Yeah. Yes, everything is available, but this means you must acquaint yourself with everything.
Yep.
And for people who don't get a thrill out of knowing everything about a system, this lessens the likelihood of you doing all of that. And because Laura has a problem with components, she never thinks to buy them ahead of time.
Yeah.
And because Matt was very nice about it last campaign, and just take the gold out of your inventory after the fact. She hasn't had to do that. Where Liam has made it very specifically a part of his characterization of Caleb.
Yeah.
Like why he chose the component pouch as opposed to a wand, a staff,
a focus of any kind.
Yeah. Where now he has Alura's staff, but still has his component pouch. And by his talking with Frumpkin and laying it all out, seems to indicate he intends to continue to use the component pouch rather than the staff.
Yeah. Well, I think he's using the staff for the spells in the staff and the component pouch for anything else.
It's fair. But I think, that in and of itself gets back to why equipment and how you use it is a character choice.
Yeah.
And what you carry. Because that's the choice that he's made. Yeah, Tough. Like I say, that is both the benefit and the curse of being a cleric. Is you have everything at your disposal. Which is why when I have players playing clerics, druids, paladins, you can prepare any spell. I tell them, on your spell sheet, I want you to write out all the spells that you like, that you think you might use. Write them down, and then you can just sort of check it as you prepare them. And for new players especially, I found that really helpful for them.
Yeah.
Because they don't know everything. And usually, when they're making their character, I will say, well, here are the 5 most popular choices. Here are 3 to 6 that I think fit your character concept really well, that from a roleplay perspective, your character might tend towards. And then the rest is filling in.
Yeah.
Do we want to get into potential predictions now?
Sure.
Because after their planning session and Essex says, I'm ready to go, Matt ends the episode.
Yep.
And they have the bones of a plan. And they have their interactions planning their potential demise. And each person has connections outside of the group and within the group that will determine who dies and who lives. And
we're going to do this most likely to die to least, or least likely to die to most, or?
Well, in my notes, I have it set up who definitely is going to die.
Okay.
To who is definitely going to live.
Okay.
So we can do it that way.
Sure.
And first on my chopping block to definitely die is Ford.
You're wrong.
Excellent. Okay.
He has a 40% chance of dying. Because he will cut tail and teleport out, taking Jester if he can, but he will run if it means he's going to die. I am leaning on my Ford is not good, he's evil, and I am leaning on he's 11 levels of Warlock and only 3 of Paladin.
Okay. All very good arguments. My arguments of Ford is definitely going to die are certainly less well thought out than yours. Mine are strictly tropisms.
Okay. I will say one more thing real quick. He also specified, I think 2 episodes ago, we're going to live even if we have to run when he's talking to Jester. So he's already got that plan in his back pocket.
Yes. And yes, Toffinator, Travis arguably is the second best versed in his abilities. Yep. With Liam being the best, I think.
Yeah.
And him having... He knows how to get Ford in and out of trouble. I will grant that. That's for sure. The problem is he is going to be out of position. Because that's the one weakness Ford has.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's very often out of position for the most beneficial move that could be made.
Yes.
And that is going to get somebody killed.
Yeah.
And because he knows I can get in there and get them out, that's where he's going to die. He's going to go in and try to save somebody who gets dropped, and that's where he's going to die. That's my mechanical argument for him dying. The reason I say he's going to die is because he is constantly saying, I'm going to live. And now, I was keeping it as a reason to get out of this, but now I really want to do this.
Yeah.
That's the character that always dies. And usually first.
For me, your reasonings are why I give him a 40% chance of dying.
Okay.
That's why I don't give him a 100% chance of living, because I'm pretty sure his plan is to bolt.
And that's fair. That's fair. Rose, yes, more Widow Just would be nice. But unfortunately, Caleb is number 2 on my list of who is definitely going to die.
I don't have anyone definitely dying or definitely living. I give Caleb a 90% chance of dying. He is my highest chance of dying. And that's because we know going in, his plan is to sacrifice himself to make sure everyone else lives.
Yeah. And that's why I have him as he's definitely going to die. I think it will be a most epic death.
Oh, yeah. It'll be along the lines of using the Philosopher's Stone to bring back Jester and or Veth and sending them away, and then doffing the coat, rolling up his sleeves, and saying, "Come and get me, bitches."
Yeah. Yeah. And possibly breaking that staff.
Yeah. That's the other thing. She expects it back, but, and honestly, I saw that happening when he first got the staff.
Yeah.
Because when I had a character that got that staff, that's what they did in the end.
Yep.
Now, in my character's case, they had reached a full arc. They had done everything in my backstory, resolved successfully, satisfyingly, organically.
Yeah.
And it was just becoming the hero and sacrificing to save the world.
Mm.
Whereas Caleb has not finished everything in his backstory.
I think Liam has made peace with
the fact that he can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think behind the scenes, there's a game they're playing of, like, they kept backstories back as long as possible. That was the game of chicken they were playing in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now at the tail end, I think they're trying to see who can have the most unresolved.
Fair.
And Caleb's winning in that game right now.
Very much so. Caleb's been winning since about episode 6.
Jester, I have at about a 70% chance of death. She's been the most committed to, I will give my life to stop this from happening. And
after Caleb.
She is the keystone, in my mind.
Yeah.
As Jester goes the battle.
Okay. I can agree with that. I give her about a 2/3, so not too far off.
Caduceus, I give a 30% chance of death. Caduceus is very good. Exactly, story builder. She lied to her mom.
Mm-hmm.
But Caduceus is very good at staying out of the thick of things. He's super vulnerable if he gets in it. And their last meeting with the Tomb Takers, I think he's no fool now. And whereas before he was trying to be, hey, let's be. And he just got whammied.
I agree with all your arguments. I give him a 50% chance.
Okay.
And that is because he's going into this expecting to die. And when you know you're going to die, you're a lot less cautious with trying to stay alive.
Well, and that's why Sun Tzu says that you should put your troops on death ground.
Yeah.
They'll fight harder if they know that you're not getting out of this.
So he's going in, and he even said to his fan, I'm not coming back from this.
Yeah.
So I give him a 50-50.
Okay. This is going to be a controversial one, I think. But my next one is 50-50, and it is player choice, because one of them is going to die and one of them is going to live. And that's Bo and Yasha. And they will be the ones to make that choice.
See,
because they're both in the thick of it. They're both on the line, and it's going to be one of them is going to have to tell the other one to run. Or make the other one run.
I give them 50-50, but I'm saying either they're both dying or they're both living. If one dies, the other's not bolting. The other's going to stay there until they are dead. I think it's either they both live or they both die.
I can't argue that because that's my other scenario. But the most gut-wrenching scenario is they have to choose which one.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yes, Doffinator. Well, yes, I am. Yeah, definitely predicting a sad CR fan based next week.
If it does happen in your scenario, it's not just going to be their choice who lives, who stays. It's going to be their fault. Because Matt is not the DM that's going to set that up to where one of you has to die.
Well, that's true.
That through.
That's true.
That's going to be due to player mistakes in battle.
That's semantics. They made the choices leading up to that moment, and they will make the choice.
But I'm still standing with either both live or both die.
Fair. Veth is my only 100% will live. Because she has the skill set and the motivation to get out of there.
And I have her at a 90% chance will live. Exact opposite of Caleb. She's my best chance for living. But, I mean, there's a profane, Order of the Profane blood hunter that has it out for
her. Yeah, well, right back at that blood hunter, though. So, yeah. And Rose, that you make a good point. That Bo is definitely on that list to die. And that's why I say it's going to be the choice. Because Bo is going to get into that situation. Yasha's going to come to try to save her and tell her to get out of here. I'll be fine. So it's a matter of, in that moment, does Bo listen to try to get help from Caduceus or whoever?
Well, and here's the thing. What they need to not team up on someone.
Well, they do in the sense that Ford has to be with
No,
Yasha.
I'm talking about Yasha and Bo.
But yes, you're right.
Yasha needs to go for Lucian. Because of the rage beyond death, because of all of that.
And that Lucian is immune to half the shit that Bo can do.
Right. She needs to go after it. Bo needs to use the monk's skirmishing archetype and the mobility of being a monk and go around and help pick off all the outliers.
Yeah, because imagine this situation. Bo...
Plus, who gives a shit about an anti-magic cone when you're a zealot barbarian that doesn't use magic?
Or a monk that uses ki.
Yeah.
So basically, what I think the winning strategy, so let's talk about a happy CR fan base. The winning strategy is Yasha goes toe-to-toe with Lucian. Bo, this Tomb Taker, this Tomb Taker, this Tomb Taker, this Tomb Taker. And she just does all of them.
And she starts
bang,
with
bang,
bang. Start with the healer.
Stun, and I'm talking in a turn. She's bang, 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 same turn. Attack, stun, works or doesn't, move on. Attack, stun, move on.
Yep.
She has the high AC to avoid opportunity attacks. So she can just bing, 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 bing. And then you've got the heavy hitters of the other crowd control of Caleb containing the Tomb Takers. And then Jester just...
Well, you have Bogo, and she goes ding, 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 ding. Oh, it failed on those two? They're not stunned? Okay, I'm going to cast Slow on those two.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Jester, drop that 7th level spiritual weapon.
And Caduceus saying, whoever Ford is fighting, channel divinity, path to the grave. Crit or not.
Dump that smite.
Yep. The highest level you got, 5th level smite, boom. Double it all. Dropped. So it's possible that they win this. It just might not be easy.
We have not seen them use these tactics that we're talking about.
Yes.
We do not expect them to use these tactics we're talking about.
And Toffinator, yes, Sprinkle will not die. Because Sprinkle is...
The Somnovum.
Well, Storybuilder is, I think, demonstrably wrong because Caduceus has used Eyes of the Dead on Sprinkle. Sprinkle is just immortal. He is a manifestation of some deity that we haven't been revealed yet. And Essek will die or betray them.
Yes, and this is where I said the one option, and that is Essek betrays them. Hey, Trent, I dealt with your Volstrucker leak problem. You want to lay off? Okay, I'll lay off for now.
And Rose, exactly. In the sense of can Essek be redeemed, it's sort of how was Damar redeemed in DS9. The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi.
Essek will not be redeemed because he does not believe he needs redemption from it. He doesn't believe his choices are wrong.
Yeah. Fair. But we're out of time, and we're going to go watch Talks.
Sam and Liam.
See you guys next week.
Yes.